So this episode is everything about the Saudi Arabian Grand Prix, which also debuted the first race of F1 Academy. If you want to listen more about that, we talk about that with Kareena from Kareena on the Grid, where we talk everything F1 Academy. There's a lot of drama, so head over and listen to that. Hello, and welcome to this episode of the 107 podcast with myself, Ash, and my co-host, Jacob. Jacob, have you seen a TV show called The Bear?
No.
Well, it's brilliant.
Mm.
And the basic premise is this chef takes over his brother's restaurant, which is called The Bear, and it's not great, and he turns it into something amazing. And I just think that's very closely similar to this race weekend, when a certain Ollie Bearman practically came out of nowhere, and at the end of it, he is now Formula One's love child. And we will protect him at all costs.
We just adopted this child. Every single...
Yeah.
I've never, ever once seen such love for a driver, ever. Like, immediately, everyone just loved him and supported him. It was insane. And I don't think we'll ever see anything like it for a long time. Outrageous.
Yeah. But
everyone's
a Ferrari fan.
Well, it sort of proved it, apparently.
Even if they say they're not, they are.
No, I think even if it had been, for Mercedes or if it had been for Red Bull or what, I think everyone probably would have jumped on board. He just seems like a nice, normal lad.
I think the Ferrari aspect helped because he kind of jumped straight into a top team. If he had been like in a Haas or an Alpine, I don't think there would have been that much.
Emotion.
Yeah.
All right.
I think that helped, but yeah.
He was the story of the weekend. Yeah.
Let's start with Ollie Bearman.
Yeah, start with Bearman. Unbelievable. The adoption papers are in the post. I'm sorry to Oliver Bearman's dad, but every single F1 fan is collectively taking him away from you. Speaking of his dad, I loved seeing the shots of him in the garage being like when he was close to the wall and stuff like that. Can you imagine the stress that you would be going through if you were his dad? It's unbelievable. Hats off to Bearman for having such a fantastic weekend. Like, genuinely, unbelievably good job.
Yeah, came in, just had the practice session.
Yeah.
And went into qualifying. Was just so close to getting into Q3 as well. Scored points, great racing. And if you look at it, that track is difficult, right? It's high speed.
Yeah.
It's like Monaco, super close to the walls. And he kept it on track, got points, had some good racing, and hats off to him. Really, hats off to him.
Absolutely. I think, to give you a great example, Lance Stroll is in his 8th season of Formula One, and he binned it in the wall within the first 10 laps. And Oliver Bearman managed to see the entire race through, no incidents, no penalties, no bad racing. He kept it clean, he kept it calm and collected, and he absolutely smashed it. Yeah. Just to give you the idea of the levels that he's performing at. Fred Vasseur came out and said that he drove like a veteran, and I think that is probably the best way that you could put his performance.
It would have been interesting to see what it had been like if it was like Mattia Binotto, if it was like a couple of seasons ago in that car, because I'm not saying this is or isn't or has changed, but he's in that environment where like who's the race engineer? Stop, Xavi is Charles's. Carlos's race engineer.
Ian, I don't know.
But he was like, don't worry, it's okay, just do what you got to do, keep it on track.
Super supportive, yeah.
Yeah, Fred's like, look, we understand that you've come in with limited practice. It's a tough track. Just keep the car in one piece.
Yeah, literally, yeah. Don't take any huge, stupid risks or anything like that. And yeah, like I said, he did it very, very well. I do have notes somewhere. I had a note. So because Bearman participated in this Grand Prix weekend as well, that race weekend, 45% of the grid once drove for Prema.
Wow.
How good of a stat is that? So it was Oliver Bearman, Logan Sargent, Oscar Piastri, Charles Leclerc, Esteban Ocon, Lance Stroll, Zhou Guanyu, Pierre Gasly, and Valtteri Bottas all drove for Prema. So
Nice.
very clearly, Prema is a great team to drive for if you want to make it into Formula One.
I also like, I don't know who put it up. I saw it on the socials where it's like, who's going to get more points this season, Alpine or Oliver Bearman?
Yeah, well, I mean, Oliver Bearman, how many points did he score? Was it 6?
6 points. Yeah, well done.
6.
P7.
Yes. Yeah,
Yeah.
P7, 6 points. So, yeah, smashed it.
I mean, it finished George Russell, Oliver Bearman, Lando Norris, Lewis Hamilton. 4
Yeah.
Brits in a row.
Brilliant. Like, absolutely brilliant. And the fact that Oliver Bearman kept Lando Norris and Lewis Hamilton at bay on softs behind him, he was able to keep... I think he was within, like, a few tenths of the lap times that Charles was putting in during most of the race as well. For
That's good.
a driver who didn't do preseason testing, has never really driven these spec cars before. He had 1 free practice session last year, I believe, maybe 2, but that was in a Haas, which is a completely different car to the Ferrari as well. So yeah, absolutely fantastic. Yeah,
I think
yeah.
it's also interesting because I was just remembering our chat with Ash. We guys kind of like the Formula One cars are easier to drive
Yeah.
than the F2 cars. So I don't think Ollie had any issue with the car itself. It's more the G-forces, right?
You say that, the G-forces, he actually crushed. If you looked, there was a photo of him at the start of the race and at the end of the race, and his headrest was crushed because his head was leaning up against it so much because the G-forces were that bad.
Yeah.
So he just wasn't prepared.
Yeah, no, don't blame him, but yeah,
no, not at all.
Do that, especially a track like that would be really hard on your neck. The fast swooping corners,
fastest street circuit in the world. And so there is also now this very funny thing where he is currently, I'm just checking, he is 10th in the Drivers' Championship with 6 points. However, he is bottom of the Drivers' Championship in Formula 2, which I don't think has ever happened before.
Mental.
It's mad, isn't it? Absolutely mad. So Oliver Bearman will definitely be one to watch as we go through the season because, did a fantastic job. And put it on pole in F2. He put it on pole. He would have got a point for, you get a point in F2 if you put it on pole for the feature race, I believe. I don't know about the sprint race. But for the feature race. But so because you can't participate in F2 and F1 during the same weekend, he had to give up the pole position so that he obviously couldn't race. So I don't know when the next F2...
It's been some weird incidents in F2 with giving up pole and disqualification of leaders. And madness. But,
absolutely. Yeah. But so it's going to be very interesting to see because apparently... It's between Kevin and Oliver Bearman for the Haas seat next year, apparently. So Oliver Bearman putting in a very good show this weekend may change some things down at Haas. Just to give you an idea, apparently that's the thing. My beloved K-Mag could be out of a seat.
Well, since Nico's come in, he's kind of shown there's some levels to this.
Well... I would actually like to discuss the Danish Minister of Defence right about now. What was your opinion on Kevin's driving this weekend?
Very, very bad.
It was brilliant. How dare you? It was a defensive masterclass.
It was so bad to the point where, we're just going to use you to hold up other drivers.
Yes, it's called
his incident with Albon was no. How does a driver of his experience do that?
He did shut the door on him a little bit. It was a bit harsh.
A little bit. He just drove into the... Alex had nowhere to go.
Yeah, that was a bit bad.
What is Kevin doing?
That was a bit bad. However, I think a 10-second time penalty was a teeny tiny bit harsh. But
that's the new rules now.
It's the new rules. And I remember saying that to you.
I think it was well deserved.
The time penalty was deserved. I will fully admit that. But the rest of the defensive driving, that he managed to keep the cars behind him going a second and a half slower per lap than the next set of cars, which is outrageous. How on earth did he do it? To keep the cars behind for that long is insane. To then give Nico Hulkenberg the chance to, pit and execute a good race strategy to finish 10th was unbelievable. The shithousery is brilliant, and I applaud it. The second penalty that Kevin got, I don't agree with.
Wait. Question for you. Do you think they would have made those decisions under Gunther?
I don't know, actually. I really don't know.
Because that's very well team principling by IO
Yeah,
and the strategy team in
yeah,
Williams. Like,
or strategy, maybe given
yeah,
the confidence to say or suggest something like
yeah.
that.
So
But I think that I honestly, Nico Hulkenberg obviously managed to get a point, but in my head, both Haas drivers have half a point because there is no way that Nico would have got that point had Kevin not done what he did. So I personally,
what get the time
I
penalties? Yeah.
I am saying that both of them
Get the
deserve
10
half a
second time
point. No, they're
penalties.
both deserve. Yeah, that's fine. It counts. But like to keep cars behind a second and a half slower per lap is outrageous. How on earth did he manage? I don't understand how he did that. And I remember Oliver Bearman coming up towards Nico Hulkenberg and going, "Oh my god, this guy's so slow." He'd been in a F1 car for what? Collectively 40 minutes by that point, and he's already dissing on the Haas team. Brilliant. Absolutely
Like,
brilliant.
if you want to drive with us next year.
Yeah, maybe be nice to us. But so
I
funny.
was thinking we start in reverse.
Sure.
So
You want to start
Pierre
with
Gasly,
Alpine then?
Yeah, Pierre. Well, Pierre, man, he's just like, what? He must think, what the fuck is going on?
Yeah,
Like,
poor luck. 21st in a 20 driver championship with 0 points after leaving the Red Bull family, which I would argue the Red Bulls didn't do particularly better this weekend either, but still, yeah.
Red Bulls are RBs.
RB. But the Red Bull family is in that collective of drivers. Yeah, I'm also looking at the photo. I've got the Drivers' Championship up next to me. Logan Sargent looks really angry. Are you looking at these photos?
No, I'm looking at the race results.
He looks so angry. Zhou Guan Yu looks really happy, and so does Esteban Ocon. But Lance looks like he wants to be anywhere else. He looks like an American high school bully. That's what he currently looks like in his photo. He's just so angry. Anyway, so
right, we digressed. Okay, Lance crashed.
Yeah, Lance crashed.
Some funny team radio.
Oh, so good.
Which I think before people go shitting on everything, it's like they don't get the feed like we don't get the feed. So he knows Lance has been in a crash as race engineer. It's like, well, can you bring it back? And I was like, no, to the wall.
I am the wall now. Yeah, so... I do have a slightly worrying statistic, and I worked this out. I did see it posted a couple of times on Instagram after I'd already worked it out. So I am sort of claiming that I thought of this at the same time. Lance Stroll has only ever finished 50% of the races in Saudi Arabia.
But they've only been three.
Four.
Four.
So he's DNF'd and crashed twice at the same track. It's not a good look, is it? His highest position was 11th, and that was the first year that it ran. So he was 11th, then crashed, then 13th, then crashed. It's not really a good showing, is it? He very clearly something doesn't work or click for him at that track, does it?
Yeah.
I just mean, especially if you compare it to Alonso for this track specifically.
Yeah, that's what I was literally about to say. Compared to Alonso, it doesn't put him in a good light. But okay.
No, not really. So.
Then we had Zhu and Valtteri. Pretty forgettable.
Yeah,
I think the next big talking point.
Unlucky during quali. Joe unlucky during quali, but only unlucky because he put it in the bin during third practice.
Yeah. But then we have the RBs, and now it seems to be the tide is turning against Daniel Ricciardo.
Yeah. He also had a spin right in front of Sergio Perez, which I imagine Sergio must have been driving, looking past him, driving at the same time, and just laughing to himself internally.
Like, you think you can have
you
this
want
seat?
It literally drive back. You want my seat? That's not going to happen. And then immediately turning past turn one, it's not going well, is it?
Social media blows everything out of proportion, but it's been 2 races. He's been out-qualified by Yuki in both races. Obviously, the car is not the best. But if he wants that Red Bull seat, he's got to really turn it around in the next few races.
Your first benchmark for performance, I've said it before and I'll say it again, is beat your teammate. If you're not able to beat your teammate, you've got a problem. So, or at least you had a problem that race weekend. But yeah, he needs to back up his ideas.
Yuki got it into Q3.
Yeah, Yuki did pretty well. I think Could we? It sounds outrageous, but could we even see, depending on how badly the season does go for Daniel Ricciardo? I know he's worth a lot of money commercially, and he can pull it out the bag randomly, like he did at Mexico. But could we even see a mid-season driver swap for Liam Lawson?
I think Daniel's got to be doing really, really bad.
Yeah, he's got to be doing awfully, but I think that it is on the table if he does awfully.
Yeah, it could be on the table. It could be on anyway. It could be on any table, right?
Yeah.
If Carlos Sainz, Charles Leclerc just dropped the ball.
Yeah.
Ollie Bearman coming in.
Yeah.
So it's on the table, but it's only been 2 races, so we'll see. But it's not been the best start for him. So
speaking of not the best start, Valtteri Logan Sargent didn't do too badly, but didn't do amazingly either. He was sort of caught up in the pack behind Kevin as well, wasn't he?
Yeah, again, this is one where like Logan's had his running in season, let's call that. But in qualifying, Alex was 12th and he was 19th.
Yeah,
that's a big gap between teammates. So again, it's early in the season, but I think what James said to him is like, look, you got your rookie season out the way. You've got to really show that you deserve this seat. Yeah. Otherwise, we will have to let you go. Kind of thing.
Yeah, I think with so many experienced rookies on the sidelines, that I think that he has to justify, being in the team. He has to. But we're only in race 2, so he could turn it around. I'm not expecting Logan Sargent.
We're only in race 2, right?
Yeah.
It's a long way to go. I mean, at least be close to Alex. Yeah. That's all I'm saying. Just be close to Alex.
I'm not writing him off just yet because it's only race 2, and I'm not expecting Logan Sargent to get points in tracks like Saudi Arabia or Monaco or Hungary or something like that because they're very difficult tracks. So, yeah.
Cool. Esteban, K-Mag, and Nico we've talked about. Alex got 11th. Right. Then we had Lewis.
We did.
Lewis and Lewis had a really good battle with Oscar.
Yeah.
Was left out much to his dismay on those tyres, which pushed him back. But it was the right decision to make because if they brought them both in, they would have lost a lot of positions.
Double stacking would have been a bit odd, wouldn't it? Yeah.
Would have been a little bit odd. But you know what? Fair play. I think, people saw Lewis in qualifying and it's like, George has beaten that. To keep fighting with the Oscar and how fast the McLarens were in that twisty section.
Sector 1, the McLarens ran away.
But then to catch up and get into the DRS with that a few times, that's why he's Lewis Hamilton.
Yeah, two things about the McLaren car. Let's talk about the McLaren drivers and the Mercedes drivers right now because I'm going to touch on both. But for me, that McLaren is so slow on the straights. The DRS does nothing, almost nothing. The fact that the Oscar was stuck behind Hamilton for such a long time shows that there's very clearly more steps to take forward with that McLaren because it's just so bad at high speed. So bad. But in medium and high speed corners, it goes into a world of its own. I don't understand how there can be such different things for high speed corners.
The balance, right? Balance is the wrong term, but they've got the downfalls for the high speed corners, which will make it interesting to see Silverstone.
Yeah, Silverstone, Monaco,
Hungary. But obviously, because they've got so much downforce, they've got
Spain should be interesting. Actually, that's another good one. Yeah, that should be interesting because that's lots of medium and high speed corners. Sorry, we're interrupting. But so for Australia should be interesting for them as well. Actually.
Yeah,
because they changed Sector 2, didn't they? So it's more flowy, it's more medium speed than slow speed. So that could make things interesting too. We could see an Oscar Piastri home podium.
Oh, that would be good.
That would be amazing.
That would be good.
That would be really good. But I think that it just the comparison of the cars. I just wanted to touch on that really quickly. And I think it's too early on in the season for the cars or the teams to have had circuit-specific upgrades like they would have for Imola, let's say. There's always a low downforce run for Imola. That's the lowest downforce the cars ever typically will be during the entire season.
Monza.
Sorry, Monza. Yes, not Imola. I do apologise. But yeah, for Monza.
As I say, Monza, I know teams bring a lot of upgrades.
Yeah, sorry.
Imola, usually circuit-specific stuff is for Monaco and
Yeah,
Monza.
Monaco and Monza typically. And then maybe one or two others. If your car is best suited for that and they want to bring specific upgrades to that track. So, for example, if you've got really good high speeds, you might want to improve the high speeds again for Canada, let's say, because there's a lot of long straights in Canada.
Do you want to talk about Lando Norris's jump start?
Yeah, because he should have got a penalty. I don't know how he got away with it.
I don't know. Like, they mentioned like the transponder wasn't working properly and they couldn't accurately judge it.
So
I mean, it looked to me like he was out of that box.
Even
when they asked Lando afterwards, he
was
a very
like,
sneaky grin.
Do you know? So in the interview the day before, he was like, maybe I'll jump the start, and then he did it the next day. I was like, oh god, Lando.
I mean, to me, that looked like a jump start, and he should have got penalised for it. And it wasn't like a small movement. It was like
probably like a quarter of a wheel turn. So you're talking like 20-25 centimeters, which is a lot at a grid stop.
I mean, it was visibly noticeable.
Yeah, George Russell noticed it. You bloody nerd! You dobbing people in, you nerd.
That's not nice.
Teacher's pet. Teacher's pet.
How is George Russell getting hate for saying he jumped the start, right? That's wrong. He's like, he should be saying that.
Yeah, he should. Yeah, I'm messing, but yeah, he should.
I feel sorry for George because he can just never do anything.
It's so funny.
He just acts like any other racing driver would.
I
saw
he just gets
hate for
the comments on one of the videos of Lando jumping the start were literally just like George Russell, the type of guy to remind the teacher that the homework's due and stuff like that. Like, so funny.
That's so mean.
But I mean, to be fair,
every other driver would have done.
To be fair, he did. If it was Fernando Alonso, he would have 100% called him up on it. The reason why Sergio Perez got a 5-second time penalty is because Fernando Alonso called out Sergio for an unsafe release. So I think that most other drivers,
which was an unsafe release,
it was an unsafe release, but he did make a teeny tiny bit of a meal of it. But yeah, it was an unsafe release. But the point,
they mentioned it in the commentary. I guarantee you that Fernando pressed the brakes just to show the telemetry and show everything.
Any competitor, the only person who wouldn't have said anything would have been Oscar. That's the only other person who wouldn't have said anything. But also,
do you know who else would have said anything? Max. I need a challenge.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, but Lando did end up leading 5 laps of the race, so he's the only other driver to lead a Grand Prix this season. However, it was because they just left him out and they didn't bother pitting him during the safety car. So I mean, it's a bit bittersweet for me. It's not like Silverstone last year where he actually earned leading those laps, for me anyway. But so for me, it should have been a penalty. It really should have been. Which, if he'd have gotten, for example, a 5 or even a 10-second time penalty, he would have been down in 9th. So after the race had finished anyway. So he would have been demoted a position. But yeah, and then just very quickly, like I said, Oscar Piastri was stuck behind the car of Hamilton as well. And George Russell did pretty good. We didn't talk about George Russell at all, but George genuinely really solid race. So
I was literally going to say the same for Oscar. Solid race.
Yeah, solid race from Oscar. Yeah, you when you're racing against Max in a rocket ship, Sergio Perez in a rocket ship. Okay, less than Max, but you got my point. And Charles Leclerc, 4th is the best you can do. Like, he smashed it. Absolutely smashed it. So yeah, fantastic. I think pretty much, other than the penalty from Norris, and I think the reason why I'm saying, like, I can understand why he didn't get a penalty, because he did stop himself before then restarting. I think if Lando had just gone for it, it definitely would have been a penalty, like 100%. But because he stopped himself,
I don't care if he stopped himself.
I think that but you get my point. I think that's like one of the things that went in his favor.
I refuse to accept your point.
I think one of the things that went into his favor with my papaya tinted glasses on is that he did stop himself.
You got to start being more neutral on the show.
No, never. Shut up. So
and if anything, they're going to be red tinted glasses, because if you saw one of the camera angles,
well, you say that. So I saw loads of memes around turn 2 camera or turn 1 and 2 camera, and I was like, I don't know what you're talking about. It was fine on F1 TV, like
really?
No problems at all.
Interesting.
So it must be a Sky problem.
That's interesting.
Yeah,
the McLaren showed up as weirdly red.
But yeah, no, it should have been a penalty. Like it really should have been. I'm sorry, Lando. Please don't hurt me. Next up, your busy mate.
Busy mate, Fernando. Great performance in qualifying. Basically, did the best that he could in the race.
Yeah. Smashed
not
it.
Not worried about Aston Martin, but I do hope they've got some upgrades coming. I really do. They've improved their qualifying pace, which is good. Touch wood for Monaco, but they really need to. I hope they've got some upgrades coming. But
let's hope so.
So far, so good. We talked about Oscar, and then Charles did what any driver that's not in Red Bull did, which
smashed it.
Finished behind them.
Yeah.
P3, solid race. Well done to him. Good little battle at the start with Sergio.
Yeah,
which was cool,
quite like that.
Gave
That
us
was good.
Interesting.
Yep.
And then the Red Bulls. Hats off to Sergio. If anyone is making a case for that Red Bull seat, it's him. He's doing exactly what he needs to do. Maybe qualifying, he can get it up there a bit, but he gets into P2.
Yeah.
And 1-2 so far.
He's leaving a bit too much to do on Sunday or on the race day, you know.
Yeah.
It's also going to be weird going from Saturday to Sunday for the race,
it is,
right?
Yeah.
I kind of like the Saturday, if I'm honest.
I like the Saturday.
I kind of like it.
I think it feels like more of an event on a Saturday.
Yeah, and
where Sunday is like, I've got work the next day.
I don't know what it is. But then again, I found myself on Sunday. I was like, well, what do I do now?
That's the thing. I also find that I'm more like relaxed and chilled on a Sunday. It's like I need a 2-hour. I say I need a 2-hour race. Like, the more that Max wins, the less I kind of need it.
Honestly, but then again, like when it was the Japanese Grand Prix and it's 7 a.m, 5 a.m, right? And then you're like, what do I do with the rest of the day? Once it's over, it's like 9 a.m. You're just about to have some breakfast because, like, you know, it's breakfast time. And then you're like, what do I do with the rest of the day? It felt similar-ish. I don't know.
We recorded a podcast.
But I quite liked it, to be honest with you. I genuinely, if they make it a regular thing where they switch up some of the Grand Prix days to Saturday, I wouldn't mind. I actually wouldn't mind.
Do you know what? I think it would also help the teams, drivers, maybe, because like they get a Sunday, possibly. I don't know. We'll have to understand their logistics and schedule. But it's like actually you can have a Sunday off, if that makes sense.
Yeah, no, I quite liked it. Like, I think that it would be nice to do like a couple of races randomly on a Saturday.
Because sometimes some of them, they do the race on Sunday and they're back in the factory on a Monday.
Yeah.
Like, wow.
It's insane. Yeah. But there we go. Like I quite enjoyed it. So yeah, thought it was good. But yeah, no, I think that Sergio is leaving himself a little bit too much work to do, or could make his Sundays or race days a lot easier if he was better in qualifying. But other than that, Sergio is proving exactly why he should be in that seat at the moment.
Yeah, honestly, I think the break has kind of done him good. I'm sure he wants to be closer to Max and pushing and challenging, but now he's having a solid race.
But bearing in mind he had a 5-second time penalty, if you take that 5-second time penalty off, he would have finished 8 seconds behind Max.
Yeah.
That's
and also,
outrageous.
you also have to remember, he was in that fight with Charles, which also helped Max.
Yeah, absolutely, and would have damaged his tyres as well. Yeah. So damaged Sergio's tyres. It'll be
interesting to see if they're like 1-2, they get away, just how quickly he stays in with Max.
Although Max did have 5 laps behind Lando, so that probably wouldn't have helped Max's tyres either. So just to play devil's advocate, but it gives me hope that Sergio could nick a win or two this year.
Yeah, that's a possibility.
Which I'm surprised I'm saying.
I think part of it's also we want to see somebody other than Max win.
Yeah, true. But remember what I said.
I think Max wants to see anybody else challenging.
But remember what I said. Like, I think we could be in for another season of just Max dominance.
I just don't think so.
It's just where I see it.
I'm definitely in the camp that somebody else is going to win this season.
I mean, like I said, I do hope so. I do hope we have more race winners. I hope that, like, because I know that Red Bull have talked about it before, where they're going to bring in there's rumoured upgrades for Japan, which is in, about a month? Just under a month. It's on the 7th of April. And so hopefully they bring some upgrades. They don't do particularly well. And the other teams start bringing in some upgrades around then / just after, and maybe Red Bull can't quite get the upgrades working properly, and they stick with it instead of like going back to what it was before, and maybe that makes the season more interesting. I think that's the opening. I see it as the next opportunity, especially given how strong McLaren were for the Japanese Grand Prix last year. It should hopefully make this year's Japanese Grand Prix very interesting. Fingers crossed we get somebody else winning in Japan. I think Japan is the next most likely track where we could have a different race winner. Even if it's Sergio, at this point, I'll take a Sergio win.
If they can sort out their DRS for that long straight, I could definitely see McLaren
doing well,
causing an upset.
Yeah,
so.
Let's hope so. The wild card is the Japanese Grand Prix. That's the wild card, I think, for the next few Grand Prix coming up. The Japanese Grand Prix could be interesting because of Red Bull upgrades and who else is strong at that track. But Chinese Grand Prix, because we haven't been there in years, that's a real wild card for me. Especially, Oscar Piastri's never driven there. Logan Sargent's never driven there. Zhou Guanyu's never driven there in a Formula 1 car. I believe he's driven there in F2, but I don't think he's done Formula 1 there. Because his first year was when there was no Chinese Grand Prix. So
he's yet to race it. So it'd be interesting if it rains.
Yeah, if it rains, that's going to make things. That's the one thing as well we haven't had to deal with because we're in the Middle East. There's no or very little rain. So I mean, the next 3 races, Australia could be rain. Japan, there's probably going to be some sort of rain. China, maybe. And then Miami, where it's either really hot or snow, like literally storms. I almost said snowstorms, but that doesn't make any sense. But all storms. So that's going to make things interesting too. So, I mean, we could mix things up, but I still think there's a danger of Max just running away with it by the mid-season break. Hopefully not, but we'll wait and see.
We shall wait and see. I did say this. I would not be waking up for the Australian Grand Prix. I used to do it, and it was worth it, but it is... So that's currently track times. That changes to my time. Yeah, it's 4 a.m. for the race, my time, so 5 a.m. for you.
Wow.
I'm not waking up.
I'm getting up for it. I'll do it.
And then, I'll tell you what, if qualifying throws in a spanner, or if there's actual race for the rain, I'll watch it, but if it's a dry race, I'd rather have my sleep.
Yeah, fair enough. I mean, you can obviously watch the highlights and stuff like that, so that's reasonably understandable. No, I know you get my point. Any other thoughts on the race weekend before we jump into bingo, a little bingo update and F1 fantasy?
No.
Cool. All right. Bingo update. You had a bit of a bingo update, didn't you?
Yeah, because so I've got from the last one. I had 20 cars finish.
Yep.
And then that was the only one I got in that bingo. But in this one, I got 2, which is a driver change.
Nice.
Bearman
yes, we are.
And I'm claiming this, which is a surprise package at testing with how bad the Alpines have got.
Yeah, I'll allow it. I'll be honest with you.
I'll
allow it.
Jacob, I'll allow it.
So for me, I currently have 4 ticked off. Which was a driver change. I can't even read what that says. A driver change, bad TV direction, because I mean the TV direction wasn't great at points, and we've had.
Was it not?
We've had also the red camera.
Oh, I've got bad TV direction.
I will allow red camera for bad TV direction. I think Terry also ticked his off for bad TV direction as well. So I mean, clearly he seems to think it is. And then I also had oh god, it's not loading. A double stack and Lewis moaning about his tires. And 20 cars finished. So I have 4 ticked off at the moment. Terry, meanwhile, has absolutely smashed it. He only needs a Lando win and he's got bingo. I say only needs a Lando win. Yeah. So he's got his middle, he's got all 3 at the top, and then the one at the bottom, and then the only one left is Lando wins.
Oh, wow.
Fair play. So he's smashed it, to be fair. yeah, he's done pretty well. So good job to them. Now, F1 Fantasy. F1 Fantasy. You're not doing too badly, if I'm honest.
No, I didn't make any
You're
changes.
still ahead.
I did drop down.
Yes. So we have somebody called Hivsan Faris, who is first. However, they've used a wild card where they don't have a budget cap for one weekend.
Right.
So they put in like a ridiculous team. So they have like no budget whatsoever. So they got 311 points this weekend alone. So which is pretty good, not gonna lie. And then I think it says Malaysian F1 Fantasy, so I think he's a Malaysian fan. So apparently we have a fan in Malaysia. So hello.
Well,
and then you're second.
Alison jumped up massively.
Yeah, Alison jumped up massively. You're second. Alison from Argument F1, she jumped up massively, but that's because she used the 3 times DRS and chucked that on Charles, which I think was a good shout, if I'm honest. But so she jumped up.
She doubled up on Oscar.
Doubled up on Oscar as well.
Got P4.
She got screwed over by Lance, though. Lance got minus 17 points.
Yeah.
That's quite bad. So Lance got, because he got a DNF, he got minus 20.
Oof.
Yeah, that's not good. But he did get 1 point for qualifying in 10th. So yeah, and then I am all the way down in 7th. I haven't moved.
No, Yuki got you minus 1 point.
Yeah,
and for some weird reason, you just don't have. Okay, your team's a Ferrari and Haas, but okay.
Well, Haas didn't do too badly. They got me 19 points.
Yeah,
which is not too bad considering I'm looking at the people around me. RB got 4 points. RB. I'm looking at other people. Williams got 14 points. So I mean, I've not done too badly considering that Haas got 19 points. So I do wonder. Did Kevin? I didn't have Kevin in my driver's lineup, but somebody else does. He got 7 points. He didn't get minus points for getting penalties. He didn't get any like.
Yeah, because it only counts it on overtakes and positions.
Overtakes and positions gained. I reckon you should get minus points if you get a penalty. Just a thought process there. But yeah, remember, obviously for Australia, you will have 2 free transfers to make for that weekend. And yeah, make use of those, essentially. That's all I was going to say. I need to very clearly review them. However, I'm reasonably happy that I haven't used my 3 times DRS.
I haven't used anything yet.
Which is Lynette used her 3 times DRS for Verstappen.
Yeah.
Lynette from I Give an F1, she used it for Verstappen, and then Alison used it for Charles. So I don't know how many like bonuses and stuff, like chips you get. Okay, so chips you get. Limitless, where you get no
budget cap,
like budget gap. Wild card, where I don't know what the hell do you do.
Wild card, you can make unlimited changes to your team before the next Grand Prix.
Okay, cool. No negative.
So it's not limited.
Which
no negative is no negative points.
Yeah.
So if you get any negative points, it's not applied.
And autopilot is another one as well.
Autopilot's a top scoring driver will automatically get a DRS boost overrunning. So like you can just like if you didn't double up Max Verstappen but you put that on and he wins, it doubles him up anyway.
That's pretty good actually.
And then obviously get extra DRS, it's 3 times, and then you've got something called Final Fix.
I don't know what Final Fix is.
Can only be used after the qualifying race. I'm going to say it allows you to make changes to your team after qualifying.
Yeah, like make a last minute change type thing.
So that could be something like you could probably use for something like Monaco.
Yeah.
Where top drivers could hit in the wall. get knocked out, where you're like, shit, I've got Lewis, he's down in this position.
Yeah, if you've got Alonso in your team and he bins it in the wall and you're expecting him to come fourth, you can quickly swap him out for somebody. That's a very good tip, actually, to use or to save that for Monaco. That's a very good
Save
tip.
it for somewhere where qualifying is super important.
But we have 6 power-ups, essentially. Neither of us have used any of them, and 3 people have used one already, and it's race 2.
See, that's the thing. I like to wait, like just let it kind of settle.
Yeah, exactly. One thing I will say 100% is I will be using my 3 times DRS for Max in Austria. Because that is just a surefire way to get triple points.
I was thinking for
Zandvoort or either or, really. I think you've smashed it. Either or. He loves both of those tracks, both of them. So yeah. Or isn't there another track that like he just does really well at?
All of them.
Well, yeah,
Spa.
all of them.
You fucking
Spa.
Absolutely.
I'm triple doing it. Spa. I'm doing it. Spa. I'm triple captaining him. I'm triple DRSing him for Spa. 100%. That's what I'm doing.
Yeah.
I also don't know. Maybe it's also good if you save your chips for sprint race weekends as well, because there's an extra race.
Ooh.
That's a good point, actually. Hadn't thought of that.
A good point.
Right, well, I think that's enough talking tactics for F1 Fantasy. But it's been fun, and if you haven't joined us for F1 Fantasy, please do. But I think that's about it for this weekend.
Should I have a quick check on the F1 news just in case anything?
Yeah, go
happened?
For it.
We're just not going to talk about that situation because it's just been
we won't.
Death.
But I don't know what we're going to do for this week's podcast.
Oh, we do have something to talk about.
Oh,
we have something to talk about.
Do we?
It is now confirmed that Massa is going to sue the FIA.
Oh, yes, we do. Yeah, I saw that. Honestly, get your bag, mate. Get your bag.
Yeah. I think it could be in the region between
64 to 104 million or something like that.
That's a reaction to Gio. Wow.
Get your bag. Do it. Do it.
Hold on, I'm just going to make sure there's nothing else. And no, that's the big news. He's going for it. And fair play to him. Yeah. Absolutely fair play.
All for it.
So
honestly.
This is from autosport.com.
Yeah.
Ex-Ferrari Formula One driver Felipe Massa has filed a lawsuit in the London High Court against the FIA, FOM, and Bernie Ecclestone over the 2008 Singapore Crashgate scandal. And I mean, I don't think he would have filed it if these lawyers didn't think they could win it.
Yeah, there's some grounds. There has to be some sort of grounds for it.
Well, I think the grounds is that, like you said, they knew and they didn't do anything about it.
Yeah, exactly.
They didn't follow due process.
Yeah.
So, I mean, obviously, what Massa and the FIA and FOM and Ecclestone have done is like, look, I know you were going to file it last year, but it seems like Max is going to dominate this year. File it this year so people have got something to talk about.
Yeah, he's already been paid off to delay.
Yeah, there's only so many articles you can write about Formula One winning and Max Verstappen winning, this season. So just do that, and it gives everyone something like us to talk about.
Apparently, yeah.
Yes. So we've had the Christian Horner situation that seems to be dying down. Let's bring in the Massa situation, and then once that dies down, something else will happen.
Apparently, yeah. Ridiculous.
Formula One is a circus, and occasionally they go racing.
Exactly, yeah. But yeah, we also had F1 Academy this weekend as well.
We had F2 as well. F2 was quite good.
F2 was pretty good, yeah, I will admit. F2 was very good too. But we actually have, I kicked off the podcast with this, but we actually have a new show, which we are doing in partnership with Kareenaonthegrid, where we talk about F1 Academy. We did half an hour, I think it was, this week. Talking about everything Saudi Arabia F1 Academy. and the 2 races and all the drama, because we had a race winner that was then given a 20-second time penalty, and yeah, outrageous. So if you fancy listening to that, do go ahead and check out the new show with Kareena, and yeah, let us know what you think, because we're probably going to end up doing it for the rest of the season. There are 7 race events this season for F1 Academy, so we will probably have Kareena on again and again and again, which is amazing. So yeah.
And if you ever watched The Bear, watch it.
Yeah. Yeah, I guess.
If you're going to be promoting shows, watch The Bear.
Yeah, exactly.
It's a great show.
But yeah, awesome. Thank you for everyone for listening. And we will, it's not race week this week, but we will see you when we see you. We'll see you at some point soon.
Cheers, everyone.
Cheers, everyone.